In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone, to the VIP Collective, the Big Day mini-series episode. I am your host, Corinne McDonald, and today we are sitting with Shealyn Angus, principal wedding planner and owner of Shealyn Angus Wedding and Events. Hello, Shealyn.
Hello.
Welcome back to the podcast. For anyone who is listening, Shealyn was a guest on season 1, episode number 13. So if you haven't heard her story, be sure to go over it and check it out. It's so nice to see you again.
It's good to see you too. Third time's the charm.
Right? We saw you for the COVID advice series, and here we are now on the new series called the Big Day mini-series. Now, you know the premise of the series, but I will give an outline for the listeners just in case this is the first time they're tuning in. So the Big Day mini-series is bringing on former guests and former brides who have went through a wedding day themselves and talking about what they learned, what they loved, and any whoopsies.
Those are the fun moments, right? Those are the fun stories.
Exactly, the fun moments. So I'm really excited to hear about your wedding day. I know nothing about your wedding day. So this is all new, all fresh, and we are going to get into it. So before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about when you got married and what your husband's name is?
Sure. So my husband's name is Michael, and we got married almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years this October. And we got married in Toronto. We had our ceremony at the Brickworks, and then we had a reception at the Burrows.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very nice. And so 4 years ago, so weddings were similar, but maybe a little different. So I'm excited to see kind of what you decided on. When did you get engaged?
So we got engaged literally 1 year to the day before our wedding. So we met on the same weekend. We got engaged 2 years later on the same weekend, and we got married on the same weekend a year later.
Okay, so the date played a significant role.
It did. It was more than a month. We are very much October people. It seems to be a significant month in our relationship. We travel in October, we met in October, and that's just kind of become a significant month for us. And we love the weather. And so it just seemed like the perfect kind of month for us to host our wedding.
Okay, cool. So let's talk through, before we get into the day portion, there's a couple questions I'm interested to know how people are navigating through finding their dress and even some of the planning parts of the wedding day. So dress, decor. So let's talk about, like, when did you know that the dress was the dress that you wanted? When did it happen? How did it happen?
Well, I mean, I had a dress idea in my mind. I mean, I, like anyone, had looked online and Pinterested stuff. But when I went to look for my dress, I had a couple appointments. The first one was at Ferrasposa. And as soon as we got in there, I literally had a panic attack.
Wow.
And I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm the bride. I'm the bride now. The attention's on me. Like, I'm not the wedding planner anymore. How do I do this? Like, how do I impress everyone? How do I make everyone feel like I'm the best bride that ever lived? And so we went into the store, and I thought, what am I doing? And so with that kind of panic in my mind, I put on the first dress and I said, this one looks good. Let's do it. And that was it.
The first one, you were ready to go.
And the first one happened to be one that my aunt picked out for me. And everyone on the rack, when it was on the rack, everyone thought it was way too revealing. It was very, very low cut in the front. And once we put it on, it actually was not as revealing. And it was just very beautiful. And what I thought looked like a classic dress, and something that I hadn't seen a lot of my own clients wear. So that ended up being the dress for me.
What was the cut at the top?
So it was a V-neck, and it had thicker straps that went to a V-neck, and the V went all the way down past like the bodice line. And so it was very beautiful. Had like a little mesh over top of there. And then it was an A-line dress, I think they would have called it. But I had it cinched in so that it was very, very, very tight, and then simply came out a little bit at the bottom, and it was all lace. And then in the back, it was a deep V as well.
Wow. Pretty.
Yeah. They were like,
and was it white, or did you go for a champagne?
It wasn't champagne. I would say it was an off-white. It wasn't like a true bright white. It was a little bit more muted than that.
Okay. So you're dressed. So you basically walked into the store, you picked up the dress.
I said, this looks great. Let's go.
And you were done. Okay. So then you got into the planning portion and so you were already wedding planning at this point. So this is 4 years ago. Yeah. So you were already kind of a vet in this area. So what was your next step after you kind of even got the dress? Like what was next for you?
Yeah. So we originally, when we had gotten engaged, we had thought that maybe we wanted to elope. And by elope, I mean like just with our immediate family and friends. I really wanted to get married in Italy. Or France, the south of France. And that was a big conversation. And then we decided that we really, really wanted to share this experience with a lot of our family and friends that maybe couldn't travel. And so we decided here, but we decided that we wanted something a little bit more rustic and with a focus on an outdoor element. So venue was our first kind of task on the list, which I think it is for most people, including my clients. So we first went to a couple venues outside of the city center. And then we eventually decided on Brickworks because we love Brickworks as a photo location, but also as a location for beautiful ceremonies by the pond. So we decided to host our ceremony there. And then we wanted a really urban kind of lofty style reception. And so we decided on the Burrows, which is just that. It's really kind of an industrial loft, lots of exposed bricks, lots of industrial ceilings, but also had a kitchen in-house that would allow us to bring in an outdoor caterer, or an outside caterer rather, that would be able to kind of create the meal that we wanted to, because food was probably the number one thing on our list.
I'd like to ask, like, what is the priority list? What was your priority? So food, obviously. And then what do you think the other, like maybe a top 3 priority list for you guys?
Yeah, so food, I think, was definitely number one. Beer was number one for my husband. And so he wanted to make sure that we were at a venue that we could bring in our own alcohol because he wanted to curate a craft beer bar. So that was really, really important to him. And he branded it, and it was like Mike's Craft Beers. And he had a whole slew of so many people could go do tasting experiences. So I would say food was probably our top priority. I think decor, or like the kind of vibe and aesthetic, was a top priority, especially for me. And then the whole kind of experience as a vibe was really important to us. We love dinner. We love sharing food and beverage with our family and friends. And so I think that kind of dinner experience where people could just like sit and enjoy a long dinner, like that kind of vibey experience was pretty high up there on our list for us.
And it sounds like you infused a lot of your own personality because you went for the look you wanted. Like both Brickworks and the Burrows really incorporate that feeling that you were going for. And then with Mike bringing in his craft beers and stuff, you really got that kind of personal touch to it.
Well, exactly. And then we ended up hiring a friend of ours, Matt, who owns a company called Fidel Gastros, and now they are strictly a caterer. And we had met Matt at a beer fest one year, and on his truck, he serves the most delicious food, including our favorite junk food, which is pad thai fries. And that basically dictated our wedding. So we knew that we wanted Matt, we knew that we wanted pad thai fries as our late night food. And then we worked with him to basically kind of curate every single one of our favorite foods into a big family style dinner. So we had everything from tacos to mac and cheese to carne asada. It was a cornucopia of deliciousness, and it to this day is what people talk about our wedding.
You're making me hungry.
Girlfriend, it is so yummy. And you can follow his food truck a lot of places now. Like he's always at festivals, and we try to follow him wherever we can because it's so yummy.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the wedding day. Let's bring on the day. So you obviously, what happens in the morning? Because are you getting ready at your house? This is always a popular question I like to ask. And I think as a videographer, logistics always play an important part in the role for both photographer, videographer, for everyone really during the day. And so I always like if there's any input we can give to the listeners about, better options for logistics of travel between locations, that kind of thing. So I always like to ask about the beginning portion of the day and where you were and why you decided to be there.
Sure. Yeah. So the morning getting ready portion is actually something that I would do completely different if I was to do again.
Okay.
So we ended up picking a hotel right in the downtown core that was basically more so halfway between the Brickworks and the Burrows. But we ended up choosing a hotel that we had never stayed in before. And that, I would say, is probably something I would suggest people don't do. And only because we could look at all the pictures we wanted to online, but when we got into our specific assigned rooms, they were quite dark and the ceilings were quite low. So as much as we had wonderful experiences with our friends that morning, I don't love the look of our getting ready photos in terms of like the lighting and the background and the kind of vibe of the hotel. I would much have preferred to be somewhere like the Four Seasons, where your rooms are a little bit more light and airy, as opposed to where we were, which was just a little bit darker. So that's one tip that I would definitely say: visit or check out your getting ready location to really establish if that is the kind of vibe that you're after for the wedding day.
Amazing. And why did you choose that other hotel room?
It was just kind of the distance between both venues. We want it to be halfway. And so that was specifically why we chose that one.
I see. Yeah, that really plays an important part. And anytime a bride speaks to a videographer or photographer, they always say, like, check the light, check your natural light. We actually turn on, most of the time when we arrive at a hotel or at a house, we're turning off the house lights and we're turning off the lamps to use the natural light. So it's important to know that you do have those. So that's really good piece of advice.
Yeah.
So what happens during prep? So you're in prep, you're obviously having a good time, regardless of the fact it might be a bit dark. You've kind of probably don't even realize that because you're just in the moment. Did everything go smoothly during prep?
Yeah, I mean, we actually had fairly good light in the rooms. It was just more like the look of the rooms was just a little dark, but Mike and I were in the same hotel. He was with his guys and I was with my girlfriends, and everything went good during prep. Our hair and makeup team, my good girlfriend Ashley Readings did all of our hair and makeup, and she was epic. And then photo and video came and joined us. Tara McMullen shot my wedding day, and there's actually a really fun story about that once we get to ceremony. And then Rick and Vic from Outside In did video for our day, so they were there as well. So it was a full house, and I had 5 bridesmaids. Wow. So plus my mom, plus my sister-in-law. So it was a packed little hotel room.
Yeah, no kidding. It does get really packed, once we start bringing everyone in and it gets closer to the time you have to get dressed and leave and things like that. It really gets busy, but it's always, I actually
loved it. I actually thought that I was going to maybe feel a little bit of anxiety with all those people kind of surrounding me in the daytime. I actually loved having my girlfriends there. The only thing that kind of went not wrong is the wrong word to use, during getting ready was, the photos of everyone that everyone sees of the bride doing up her dress, and it's this beautiful moment. My dress was very complicated to put on, and I felt almost like I didn't want to be around everyone for that moment. And so we decided in that moment that my mom and I were just going to take a moment on our own without cameras around us, and we were just going to go and like get my dress on. It made me feel comfortable because I was wearing like every Spanx imaginable. And so we just took that moment for our own. And I think that was a great lesson for me in the moment to realize that as much as you want all these photos to happen and all these specific moments, you also at some point have to turn it off and go, what's right for me in this moment? And how am I feeling? And how do I want things to proceed? And that was what was right for me right then. I was like, you know what? I need to just have a little space and go do this just with my mom so I don't feel like totally naked. And then I had a moment where I got to come out and show all my girlfriends this dress on, and it was lovely.
Yeah, I think that's important too, is because you knew you were going to really have to focus on getting the dress on because it was complicated. So sometimes even photographers, videographers are going to just see that you're focused, like you have more of a focused face than you do, like relaxed.
Beautiful and posed.
So it makes sense to, and it is okay to say like, just give us a minute, we're going to do this. Like that's totally fine. But I think that's just something. And then when you came out, you were able to reveal to your bridesmaids.
Exactly. And I felt comfortable. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Now, did you and Mike opt to give each other gifts in the morning?
We did. So I sent Mike up a custom pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers. So I actually can't remember what I wrote on them right now, but I had them specifically engraved. I think I put our wedding date, but I think I also put something else. And he still has those.
Does it say I'm the son of your life?
That would have been really great. I think it actually, I feel like it just says our wedding date and it might say his name. But I sent him those, and then he like went like way out over the top, and he sent up 3 different boxes. And so throughout the morning, I got to like open different boxes. So the first box was, Mike is a graphic designer, so he designed these like beautiful postcards for me inside. And so inside the first box was saying that we were going to go to New York. And so that was the first one. And then the second box that I got to open a couple hours later was saying that we were going to sit in the front row at this Broadway show that I had wanted to see. And then the third box that came was also that we were going to go see our favorite musician together in New York the next night. So it was basically like this full New York weekend, and like all things that really were special to us. We had seen this musician in 2 other cities as well. So it was really special. And so I got that, which was amazing. He's very thoughtful.
That's awesome. Well, it shows. Yeah. Cool. So after the gifts, now did the last gift, was it time to come when you were already dressed? Like, were they timed as well? Or they were just kind of arriving?
They kind of were like every couple of hours, but the last one was definitely once I was dressed.
Oh, cool. Love it. Love it. Did you have cards as well? Personalized cards?
We did have personalized cards, and I actually ordered personalized cards for all my bridesmaids as well. So they were all in the same kind of font and stuff as the ones that I gave to Mike as well.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're dressed and ready to go out the door. So off to the ceremony. Is there anything that happens between getting from the hotel to the ceremony that we should know about?
So yes, absolutely. So this is where kind of the funny moments of the day start. So we had decided to do Ubers as opposed to doing limos. And this is one thing that I will always advise my clients against, is get the limo, schedule the driver, know the person who's picking you up, know the car. Although our Ubers were fine, it was definitely difficult to find them. And when we got downstairs, our Ubers had switched. The one that I was supposed to get went to Mike, and the one that Mike was supposed to get came to me. So the one that came to me was an SUV, which was a lot higher than I was expecting it to be. Yeah. And so I couldn't get up into said SUV because my dress was so tight. And once I did get up into said SUV, I sat down and my dress ripped.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you hear it rip?
Oh yes. It was the rip heard around the world.
Oh, everyone probably just froze in that moment.
All my girlfriends were like, oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. But what it turned out being was a lot more dramatic to hear than it was to see. What happened was it was just actually the like the hook and eye at the top of the zipper ripped off, because when I sat down, it basically pulled, which tells you how tight my dress was.
Right.
And so it was like the strings ripped out, and like it ripped the fabric that it was attached to. And so anyways, I just didn't wear the hook and eye.
So it was totally fixable.
I mean, we just didn't hook it.
You didn't hook it. So, and it was fine.
Luckily the zipper was strong enough.
Oh my goodness. So you stayed in the limo. Once you were in there, you weren't getting back out. So you had already gone through it.
I stayed in. I think I sat like this the whole time because I couldn't sit properly.
Or not limo. Sorry, I said limo, but it was an Uber that you took.
It definitely was an Uber. Yeah. And but off we went.
And then, so Mike was in his Uber. He didn't split his pants. Everything was good?
Everything was fine. He actually has some really, really great photos of him in his Uber that are like really cool. Like his car was super cool. And he, like with his new glasses and his like fancy suit. And it was great.
The other thing about Ubers, and we've had this experience before with another client, is that they had ordered an Uber and the Uber canceled it and then didn't show up. And
so it's just one of those things that's a little bit too casual.
Yeah.
For a wedding day, in terms of the logistics of it. Like the car may be wonderful, but it might not. And the driver might get lost, but he might not. Like it's just one of those things that it's so much easier to just plan ahead. And you don't have to have a limo. We can do town cars. We can do, cars that don't necessarily feel like you're going to a wedding, but they're just with a professional driver and they're really scheduled, and I can track you on the GPS.
And there's likely cold water in them. Because most limos that show up will come with, kind of the bells and whistles that is really nice and makes you feel a little refreshed before you go anywhere. So that's always a good thing. Yeah. Okay, so we get to the church. I'm feeling this. We get to the church.
We get to the Brickworks.
Sorry, Brickworks. We get to Brickworks.
Yeah.
And what's happening at this point? Guests are sitting down.
Well, we did a reveal. So we did photos. We did a reveal. So we did photos before the ceremony, and Mike and I did a unique reveal in that I didn't want to go up and tap him on the shoulder. I wanted to walk towards each other. So we had more of a moment. And so Tara placed me at the bottom of a hill, and then Mike kind of walked down the hill towards me, and everyone was watching, and it was really sweet. And then we got to kind of relax and then start really enjoying ourselves with our friends. And we did all of our photos beforehand, even our family photos too. So that once the ceremony came, we kind of were let loose and just enjoy.
So a lot of the fall weddings tend to have a first look if their ceremony is a little later because we lose light, right? So that can be a factor to it. Would you have, even if you were to do it another way, would you still have a first look and your photos before the ceremony?
Yeah, I definitely would. And I always suggest that to my clients. It's very rare actually anymore if I do have clients who want to do a ceremony and then photos afterwards. Like I think in the amount of weddings that we have coming up next year, one is not doing a reveal. Every single other one is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, that's truly dictated most times by what time you have to have your ceremony at. So if it's at a church, if it's somewhere that, for example, a Laura Mill, if you use a certain room there, it's dictated what time your ceremony is. So if it's at 3, you're just going to do your photos afterwards because it's already so early in the day. So, but I would have stuck with the reveal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you did like a unique walk to each other. That's something a little different. Were there any tears to be shed?
I'm not a big crier, so I mean, no.
So it was good.
I mean, I think we were like emotional, but we didn't have like the big cries. And maybe that's also because we were walking towards each other. Like it was less and it was more of a like anticipated, slower kind of experience.
For sure.
And yeah.
Awesome. How did the photo shoot go? Did you have a photo list before? Were you prepped for that?
We had a photo list, but it was very, very straightforward. Our families are not big. I mean, in terms of our immediate families. So we knew that we were going to do one photo with each bridal party member, a group photo with each bridal party, an entire bridal party group together, a photo with our siblings, and then a photo with our immediate family. And then that was kind of it. So we knocked those out of right at the beginning. And then we scheduled one massive extended family photo post ceremony. So basically everyone would come out of the ceremony, stop, big group photo, go.
What's your guest count? What was your guest count?
Our guest count was 128 by the time some people dropped out a couple days before.
So here's a question for you when it comes to the photo shoot. So let's say when you are planning this, and you start moving into the photo portion with your bridesmaids and the groomsmen. What do you typically suggest in terms of who goes first so that they can relax afterwards? And like, just so that it's easier on your bridesmaids, like how do you kind of tell people?
Yeah. We actually really thought about that. We did our bridal party first, and then we actually paid for them to go sit in the restaurant and have drinks. So I always suggest that people do their bridal party right off the bat so that they can go kind of hang out, and you can take as long as you want doing your bride and groom portraits. So we totally like played by that book. We did that as well.
I think that's one, just because there is a portion that is just meant for the couple. And so it's nice to be able to let your bridal party go somewhere and have drinks or like stay cool in the air conditioning. So always thinking about that in the planning process is
exactly
as well.
And you keep them happy too, right? You want to have a bridal party.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk the ceremony. So we've done the first look, we've done the photos, and we're moving into ceremony. How did it go?
So our ceremony, we were so excited about, and I was waiting up in one of the Brickworks bridal suites, and Mike was down greeting our guests. And by the way, I learned all of this afterwards. So just know that I was just like a cool chicken. So apparently guests were all arriving. Some people were late because there was massive construction happening right outside of the Brickworks. And so our officiant, the amazing Dean Kennedy, he went up to Mike and his best man at one point and said, "How you guys doing? Like, you ready? Okay. Who's going to be holding the rings?" And Brian goes, "Oh no. Oh no." And Brian, our dear friend Brian, whom we love and like joke about this, like it's totally fine, forgot the rings.
Oh no.
So at that point, everybody kind of went, "Okay, what do we do?" And Dean said, here, you can use my wedding ring. You can use my wedding band, and then just use her engagement ring. And Brian was like, no. And then all of a sudden, one of Mike's other groomsmen, Paul, goes, I can fix this. And Paul works in upper management in hotel chains and knew the manager of the hotel where we were staying at.
Okay.
So he hops on the horn to the management of the hotel and goes, you have to go into this room and get the rings, and then you got to send it in a taxi over here right now. So off they went up to our hotel room, got the rings, put the rings in a taxi. And the taxi came and dropped them off at the ceremony site. And this all happened in a matter of half an hour. So our ceremony started 45 minutes late. But that was because of a lot of guests being late and then about 20 minutes of the ring.
Wow. What are the chances that you just happen to know somebody who could connect with somebody and get those to you like that?
And I was sitting up in the bridal suite texting Lisa. So my girlfriend, Lisa Shaw, who I worked with before as a planner, she coordinated my day and I coordinated hers a couple weeks before actually. And so I was texting Lisa being like, let's get the show on the road. Let's go. I'm ready. And she was like, it's all good. Just chill. Like people are late because of the construction. We're just waiting for people.
So you didn't know about the rings at all. You just thought it was more construction.
I didn't know at all. I didn't know at all. I think I found out at the reception. They told me. And I said to them, I was like, I actually would have been fine if you used Dean's. Like that, I don't think that would have done anything to me. But yeah, so that was something fun. And then our ceremony itself was really beautiful, really personal. We had a friend of ours read a poem that I really love. And actually it was the poem that Mike recited to me when he proposed. So that was super special. And then the other thing unique about our ceremony was we didn't have witnesses as in our maid of honor and best man. We put all of our guests' names who were there in a pot. And right before we were going to sign the registry, we drew names for who was going to sign the registry with us.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And when we were drawing names, we picked one out and it was our friend Erin who then came up and we were so excited about Erin signing with us. And then we selected the other name and it was Tara McMullen, our photographer.
That's awesome.
It was a really, really wonderful friend of ours. So like that was like, we wouldn't have just put a photographer's name in if they were like very close to us. So, yeah. And Tara's reaction was so hilarious. And luckily her second shooter that day, Janice, was able to capture it all.
No way. Oh, that's amazing. What gave you that idea? I really like that. That's very different.
I didn't want to have a maid of honor. I couldn't pick between my girlfriends. So I didn't have one. And so in the process of trying to figure out who was going to sign, we kind of had this moment of being like, jokingly, well, literally anyone could do it. They've all seen it happen. And then it kind of snowballed and we thought, this is really cool. And we ran it by Dean to make sure that like that was allowed. And he said, of course, like it doesn't matter. It's just anyone who's witnessed it. And so it kind of turned into something cool. And I love that idea. I've had 2 of my clients replicate it. And I just think it's super fun. And
yeah, that's different. That's unique. Yeah. And plus it's giving your guests like they're in the wedding now.
Yeah.
Their name is on the wall.
They totally were. And everyone felt really excited. We did pick like some names out of like +1s that we had never met before. Right. So like you can make it, like you can like not fix it, but like make it, something that you're going to be excited about all those people.
Right.
So
and did he pick them out right before the signing? Was it kind of
Mike and I picked one? Yeah. So Mike picked one and I picked one.
That's awesome. That's really cute. Well done. Yeah. So after the signing, how did the kiss go?
So our kiss was great.
Is that a weird question?
I'm like, how did the kiss go? Fine.
You didn't miss each other. Everything was good.
No, our kiss was great. And then we left, we exited out, and we really had thought about the music that was played. Every single song that was played at our ceremony was a song that we had seen the musician perform in concert and it really meant something to us. We had 5 musicians and then off we went.
Amazing. Yeah. So you had already done your photos. So you were leaving Brickworks.
Mm-hmm.
You were en route to Burroughs at this point. Mm-hmm. Did you take a limo bus?
We took a limo. So we had
Uber.
We had scheduled limos post-ceremony so that they were waiting for us. But what was really funny was we had booked one for our bridal party and then booked one for us and our parents. And so the bridal party got in the first limo, which was actually the smaller of the two, and it was meant for Mike and I. So they went off. God knows how they all fit in there, but they did. And so Mike and I were in this massive limo with just my parents. So we ended up like scooping a bunch of guests in with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so we had like my uncle and my aunt and like my dad's best friend from childhood and his wife. And it was just kind of fun.
That's cool. It's just like unplanned, right? And you got to spend more time with people.
It was totally unplanned, but like really fun.
Yeah. So then you get to downtown Toronto, and so you're ready to rock and roll into the party. Mm-hmm. Did you take some time for yourself? Because usually cocktail hour is kind of the time when you guys get to like chill out a little bit, regroup, talk about what just happened, and learn about the fact that the rings weren't there 5 minutes before the ceremony. Was that what you guys did, or like what kind of happened once you got to the pros?
So we planned an entrance into our cocktail hour, which went horribly. So we at the Burrows, you take an elevator up to the event space, and we had planned it with our MC, who's a good friend of ours. Like we timed the elevator as to like how long the elevator would take. So the doors opened, and then it would be our first dance, and we would dance. Oh. In theory, it sounded wonderful. And this was my husband's shining moment because he picked the song that was like his thing, and his like friend was our MC. And so we're like, yeah, go. So we get into the elevator, and as we're going up, we can still hear him talking instead of what should have been the music. Oh. And so we're like, oh no. Like as we're getting closer,
can't stop
like,
it.
This isn't going to time out. And you can't stop it. So out we come, and we're like literally outside the elevator, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. Oh. So it like looking back now, we're just like, why the heck would we ever try to like control elevator technology and also like human who's standing in front of an audience?
Right.
And so you know what, it was still great. We like everyone still like clapped for us, like it was fine. And then we did our first dance right away, and then I went off and had my hair changed. So Mike kind of stayed in cocktails, and I went off and I had my hair changed. So
were you hair up for the ceremony and went down, or what was the look?
So my hair was actually down for both. I just had a veil for the ceremony, and my hair was just kind of loose, kind of like it is right now. And then for the reception, I had it kind of a little bit more kind of slicked and pinned back. It was still down. And then she got rid of the veil and just kind of touched me up a bit.
Amazing. And the first dance, what song? 2014. What was the big song in 2014?
Oh my God, this wasn't even a hot song in 2014. Mike and I have interesting music tastes. And so we danced to Hoppy Pola by Sigur Rós.
I don't know if I know that one.
Yeah, no one does.
It sounds
it's bad. Actually it's an Icelandic song, and so it's not even in English. And it's very instrumental, and it has Icelandic lyrics, but they're not like important lyrics. It's more the tune of the song that it kind of resonated with us since the beginning of our relationship. And so that's what we danced to.
And so when you hear that song now, do you still have like moments, or like do you still listen to it?
It's not as sentimental as it was.
But do you still listen to it? Like if you guys are going for a drive, will you put that on?
No.
I'm just curious.
It was great in the moment. It was really great in the moment. And yeah.
So you said food was one of your top priorities. So did you obviously probably had meal tasting beforehand. Did you work that into like your planning schedule to make sure that everything was on point?
Absolutely. So we knew from the beginning that we wanted to do a family style reception, which probably won't happen again in the next couple of years.
Right. And just describe what family style is for everyone listening, just in case.
Sure. So we wanted to have big platters in the center of the table that people would kind of pass around and enjoy. We did it in 8 people. So we had 4 long tables of 30 people.
Okay.
And basically every eight people got their own kind of display of different platters of food, different sides, and they were kind of to help themselves. And that was amazing. So we definitely went for tastings. We went to, at that point, Matt, our caterer, had a restaurant in Queen West. And so we went to the restaurant, and he basically we just gorged ourselves on food and selected our favorites. And then, so that was a big part of our tasting. We brought my parents, we involved them in that portion of it because my parents took care of paying for catering and food and beverage. And so that was really important that we included them in that. And then on the day we had that, so we had the family style dinner. And then a big tradition in my family is our world famous butter tarts.
Oh.
So instead of doing a formal dessert, we had a wedding cake as well. But we had my family make boxes of butter tarts, and each table got like this really cool pastry box of butter tarts just sitting on their table. And then they got to kind of go at them.
I'm assuming most people do have a meal tasting prior to their wedding.
Absolutely. I have not done a wedding that didn't have one.
Okay. So
I think it's really, really important.
It's very important. And I know we've talked about food a couple times on the podcast, but it is something that people will take away, the memory that people will take away.
If food is not a top priority on a wedding checklist, generally speaking, they're not clients for me, because I always say that the most important aspects of your wedding is good food and good music. Mm-hmm. I think that those make a good celebration. So if someone does not see those as top priorities, generally speaking, that's not a wedding that I'm going to really excel at, because that's what I feel is like the meat and potatoes of a celebration that's going to be remembered.
Yeah, very true. And so let's stick on music then, because I'm curious to know, how do you usually advise, or what did you do when you were choosing music when it comes to DJs or bands? What did you do? And did you go out scouting and like try and get in on other weddings? How do you really scout other bands when you're looking for them?
Sure. So I actually completely disagree with the concept of going to someone else's wedding to listening to their band.
Okay.
That's something that I always advise my clients to not do. I just think it's a faux pas.
Yeah.
There are lots of private showcases that you can go to, lots of online content, and then lots of expertise from your team. So those are how I suggest people kind of choose their wedding music. But we had a band in mind who we booked and who unfortunately got a way better gig than our wedding a couple months out from our wedding. So it's totally fine. They're actually friends of ours, and they helped us find a band that was very, very similar to replace them. And so we had a band, and then we also had a DJ who was able to play over dinner and then play during the band breaks. And then for later in the night, we really wanted like an East Coast folky band. So we wanted to make sure that we also had a DJ, so that those times where we really wanted to dance could be kind of supplemented by like typical top 40 music.
Do you have connections to the East Coast?
We do have connections to the East Coast. So Mike's family is mostly from Nova Scotia. I have family from out east. My dad's side of the family, a lot of them are from New Brunswick. But it also just became a big part of our kind of genre that we loved in terms of music. We also both have connections to Scotland and Ireland when it comes to our heritage. And so we both kind of love that, like pubby kind of just stomp out with a beer in your hand kind of vibe.
And so did you have family members coming in from the East Coast as well? So
nope. So that's more like ancestral. Actually, this is like totally not about my wedding, but Mike actually discovered a whole other side of his family in the past 2 years post-wedding. And that's the whole side of the family that came from the East Coast. So it's actually really interesting that a lot of our kind of love of East Coast music and that kind of vibe actually became true to Mike's heritage as well. So yeah,
that's cool. And then just to confirm, because I didn't ask you this at the beginning. Where did you meet? Where did you meet in the East Coast? Did you meet in Toronto?
No. Mike and I met online. We're old school. We're plenty of fishers.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
We're old school.
We got together right before the age of like the Tinders and the Bumbles.
Yeah. Plenty of Fish was all the rage.
It was all the rage.
So we're in the reception. The party has started. You've done your first dance. Party started. And how did it go?
It was great. The reception was amazing. The food was amazing. We sat in the middle of one of the long tables. We really wanted to sit with our friends and our family. So our table was just like a party. Like my girlfriends were beside me and Mike's guys were there. And then like down the row, like of our table was just like all of our friends. And so it was amazing. And we did speeches in between each course, which is always how I suggest people kind of do their speeches, and logistically it works really, really well with continuing service too. So people would be like eating some tacos and listening to a speech, and then like more food would come out, and then someone else would say a speech. Our speeches were hilarious. Our friends, it was like a roast.
Yeah.
We got roasted, but in like the most hilarious ways possible. Everyone still talks about my husband's grandmother's speech, because all she talked about was all the girls that Michael dated.
And so how happy are you to have video?
Oh my gosh, thrilled. We watch our video all the time.
But even hearing like the grandmother's speech was like that one of the highlights, and to have that on film. And your husband's obviously, he's a videographer as well. So he knows the importance of video. But
video was actually, at that point when we were getting married, it wasn't something that was top of my list. Like I said to him, good photography is really important, and I knew that I wanted Tara to shoot it. So that was fun. That was done. And then Mike said that video was super, super important to him, and that he wanted to take that and like pay for that. That was what he wanted to do. And he wanted to pick the people. He knew he wanted Rick and Vic. And so that was him. And thank God he did, because what I always say to my clients is like, your photos may be amazing and you may capture those moments where you see someone laughing, but the video is going to tell you what they were laughing at.
Right.
And that's so important to me. And the voices, like I'm such a visceral person, and hearing people's voices and laughter, like those are memories that are like so, so, so special. And
they can fade.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so we did like a highlight reel, which is like a 5-minute video of our day. And then we also, because Mike's a videographer, he was able to get the raw footage. Mm-hmm. And then he put together like an 1.5-hour video just of the raw footage of like our ceremony and speeches and all of that.
And so you kind of have everything now.
Yeah, we've literally, I think Mike's watched it more than I have. I think I've watched the 1.5-hour thing once. But it is something that we can show people if they wanted to see a speech, or like, you know, we have that as a reference point. But we probably watch our wedding video, oh my gosh, like I think I've seen it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
We watch the video more than we look at the photos.
Yeah. And I loved, and you know what else is really cool is that Perry, when she's 20, is going to get to watch you. Like how cool is that, right?
Absolutely. She's seen it.
She's seen it already.
You've seen it. Yep. She has, because the way that Mike has it set up on our TV with all the little like movie posters of all the videos he has. Mommy and Daddy are on that movie poster. And so she'll frequently ask to watch it.
Well, she's going to be asking to wear your dress shortly. So get ready for that.
It's got to be dry cleaned. It's 4 years old and has 6 inches of dirt on the bottom.
Well, she'll love it, because I used to wear my mother's wedding dress all the time. I played in it all the time.
She will like swim in it. Oh my gosh.
So the party, the dance was amazing. The band rocked it. Any whoopsie moments from the reception other than your timing?
I'm trying to think if anything happened in the reception. I don't think so. We ran out of one type of alcohol. I can't remember.
Must have been a good party. So it was a good party.
You know what was really funny is that I actually didn't get drunk on my wedding, which I'm very glad about. I felt like I drank all night, but I think I ate a lot of food, because that was what we wanted to do. We like actually sat and ate our wedding dinner, which everyone needs to do. We sat and ate the food and loved it and like got to experience it. So I think I had enough in my system, but apparently everyone was hammered at my wedding. And I found out about it like the next day. I don't know if I was just like had rose-colored glasses on, but apparently everyone was just absolutely hammered and having the time of their lives.
Good. If party's priority, that's what you want. Party.
It was. And the band was so good, and people just, had drinks, and we had beautiful furniture from Contemporary Furniture Rentals that Peter lent us. And so people just kind of either lounged or danced, and then we cut the cake, and then that was it.
So how important, if your guests are having that good of a time, how important is it to have a late night table or some food come out to help with that a little bit?
Super, super important. So that's where we had our pad thai fries. So our dinner ended late. So we didn't kind of leave the dinner situation until about almost 10 o'clock. And then our late night food came out at about 11:30. So people weren't like craving a ton of food, but once they saw and smelled what was coming out, they were like totally in. And then we actually served our cake as a part of our late night as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So do some people try and decide whether or not they should have a late night table? Or is it usually
most people
standard?
I think most of my clients, and gosh, I mean, all of them have late night food in some capacity. So most of the time cake is becoming something that maybe we'll do as late night, but it's definitely not the only thing. And for the most part, we're doing it for like 50% of the guests. Most people are doing past food. I am a big supporter of past late night food as opposed to a late night station. I think late night stations look wonderful until like the fourth person gets there, and then it doesn't look great at all. So what I always suggest is like past, like if you want to do the poutine kind of situation, do like little takeout containers and have the server serve it right on the dance floor so that no one has to leave.
That's a cool idea. That's a good way to keep people on the dance floor, right?
Yep, exactly.
Along with the couple being on the dance floor.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Mike, and like one of the best memories from our dance floor is one of the last songs of the evening was this like hoedowny, like East Coast, like 20-minute song. And all of our friends were dancing in a circle. Like we were all holding hands and like dancing in a circle, like a big circle. And we were like, by the time we were done, we were all like dripping, and everyone around us was like clapping because of how hilarious it was. And that's the way to get people to dance, is if you're right there with them.
That's awesome. Now, did you take an Uber back to the hotel, or did we learn the Uber from the beginning of the day?
We didn't learn. And the worst part was, God bless him, my husband called us the Uber. And we get downstairs to the Uber, and he has mistakenly ordered us an Uber pool.
Oh.
And in the front seat of our Uber on our wedding night, when we're so in love, is a random drunk dude with a Big Mac who rolls down the window and goes, "Hey, you just get married?" And I was like, "We're getting in that car? We're getting in that one?" Anyways, needless to say, we did not get in.
Oh my goodness.
We ended up hopping in a taxi.
You didn't take the pool, you took a taxi.
We took a taxi.
That is so good.
We were just like, we lived downtown, like,
yeah.
Taxis and Ubers were just kind of what we did, and that's what we thought we'd do on our wedding day. And I would definitely not do that again. At
least go for the Uber X. If anything,
we did Uber Black, like when we on the way there, which were like is the nicer kind of end of Uber. But we would definitely, I think, next time do some car hires instead.
That's awesome. Well, this has been really fun. Before we end off, I want to know your 3 takeaways from your wedding day. Like, I know you've given a lot to us in advice.
Sure.
But like, what do you think the 3 most important takeaways were?
I think number 1 is to always remember that you don't have to do anything. And at the end of the day, making it representative of who you are as individuals and as a couple is the most important. I think, as I've mentioned, food is the soul of a party. So making sure that the food is not only delicious, but plentiful, and also something that people will walk in and expect for you to serve as a couple. You know, does it speak to your favorite kind of styles of food or the way that you like to entertain your guests? And 3, I would just say laughter is the best medicine for a stressful wedding day.
But you weren't stressed. You were calm, cool.
We had a wonderful wedding day, and these stories are hilarious stories to tell, and we love telling them. Like, Mike loves telling the story about the rings and like the drama of it, and it's all memories and great memories.
Yeah, it's all a part of the story now, which is
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad that you took time to sit with us, because this was super entertaining and very fun to hear about your wedding day and everything you learned.